On's best champion overall. He's played it the most, and he looks most comfortable on it, so not surprising on that one. And it looks like they're just trying to pinch the engage from On. This is, I think, a pretty smart strategy. This is one of the weaknesses that we actually highlighted of Suning, is that On is very good on engages on the number of champions. However, at times he does look a little bit more lackluster when he doesn't get the Thresh or the Rel. Now, SofM, please don't do us like that. You know, I know you might be aware of the speed run and everything, but I do want to see him go for something a little bit more unorthodox. It's just going to be the good old Udyr. I hope at least he goes for a mid-Jayce this time.
If he gets ahead, I promise you, Clement, he'll go for mid-Jayce. That's just who SofM is.
Max
and also,
stance,
I feel like
that.
Maybe not if he's going mid-Jayce. Okay. Maybe that's a Phoenix stance kind of game. It's going to be the Kaisa for Huanfeng, very much a classic pick. Not just for Huanfeng, but it's just a strong AD carry. Over to eStar then, as they can go for something like a jungler themselves, things like Olaf available for Hacker if he wants to go in that direction. And then you could just go for your AD carry yourself as well, or maybe go for a mid laner or something along those lines.
I think this is a pretty good trade, taking up the Udyr against the Hecarim. Typically, we do see Hacker, he has to pull his weight early, so he actually does favor things like the Olaf and Udyr a little bit higher than the Hecarim, even in this current situation. So taking away Udyr, I think, is beneficial, even though most teams actually rate Hecarim higher in terms of the draft priority. Now, eStars, they should be looking at a counter in terms of teamfight. Hecarim does have more teamfight potential over Udyr, and you already have the Alistar, so you can go into hyper carries. So I do expect something that, you know, is sort of a 3-item crit AD carry to come out for Rat. You know, Tristana probably is the best comboing piece with the Alistar. Can play very defensive, also has that level 2 all-in potential. So they're going to lock that in. Looks like a slow game plan for eStars, a front-to-back game plan. While Suning might be picking up the pace and heading towards that speed run as we're talking about the Galio locked in.
Yeah, the Galio can slam it in the bottom lane to try and answer the Alistar, or it is also kind of an Angel pick, right? When you think back to Suning last year, Angel brought out a lot of Galio, so we could see a mid lane Galio. Seraphine going to be banned away here by Suning as they try and target out that mid lane of Irma, try and remove the defensive style that we've seen Irma sometimes slip into.
And, you know, Irma has actually played, his main champions are the Orianna, so I do expect that to be banned out. As an Ori, you do have a pretty good early game against someone like the Galio. You push him in quite easily. And it does look like eStars are going for sort of like a full-on, just late game build. They are on the blue side, so, you know, they're not going to get counter picks. I do expect something like Orianna and Ornn if it is allowed for them. In the meantime, Suning are thinking about getting a counter pick into the top lane. So they're probably just going to get a tank killer, and indeed the Orianna banned out like I assumed it would be.
Yeah, so Orianna taken off the board, trying to remove some of these safe mid laners. Things like the Azir still available though, if Irma wanted to go in that direction, if he does want to play super safe. But again, the Azir does feel like it's been less of a priority more recently for a lot of mid laners, as Nocturne banned away here. That, alongside the Kaisa, alongside the Galio, has been somewhat of a pickup. So eStar kind of played 4D chess here, trying to read what Suning were going for.
Yeah, this is super interesting. I felt like they banned away the Nocturne to go for the Gnar themselves, anticipating on Suning with last pick for their top lane. But instead, Suning just do them one better and just take away the Gnar themselves. They're like, well, you know, we don't really mind getting this matchup. We don't really care what you can throw at us. And for ZS, his typical answer has actually been Jayce into the Gnar, but the Jayce would not really fit into the rest of the team. I don't think you really want to take Jayce here. They might be thinking about it just because they have the Zoe as well, so they might be going Zoe Jayce just because they want to counter out the top lane matchup. But we'll sort of see how that goes. There is a chance for Tristana to go up into the top lane, but we haven't seen it from ZS. We have seen it from guys like ShiauC, but not from ZS just yet, so I'm still assuming that one just goes into the bot side while they have to find a counter pick against the Gnar. Yasuo would be spicy, but I don't think it's going to happen.
That's the classic. That's the classic Gnar counter, is the Yasuo. Which we basically haven't seen it, this split at all, even though Gnar's been so popular. It's going to be the Jayce anyway. So you do have a lot of, like, snipe all-in potential, right? Where the Alistar and the Hecarim go in, and Zoe and Jayce can follow it from long range.
Let's go!
This is what Angel brought out on the international stage out of nowhere. No one was really expecting Angel to just suddenly be an insane Akali on the stage as well. Obviously, we saw it like way back in 2019, but that felt like so long ago. I remember talking to Grabs about this, and he was like, Who expected Angel to be a great Akali player? This guy just plays Azir. Why is he so good at Akali? Like, that's a direct quote from Grabs.
Yeah, he did play in one of the earlier splits, but it's always been sort of like a backline pocket bit. And this split, you know, let's be real, Akali's kind of been gutted in terms of her champion stats and everything, her skills and her abilities. Her recent changes were quite interesting as well, as we did see a lot of damage.
There's two things that are at stake. The first thing is obviously seeding for playoffs, blah, blah, blah. Nobody cares about playoffs. Playoffs isn't important. What's important is that Suning are on the cusp of being the best playoff team at defeating the LPL bottom 4 at the fastest time. This is the bot 4 LPL speedrun on the line. And Suning, they have to win this game in 25 minutes and 36 seconds to win the LPL playoffs bottom 4 speedrun. That's what's at stake here, ladies and gentlemen. This is a big one.
I just want to kind of go over who the bottom 4 actually are. I'm just kind of curious, like, which team's current. I believe it's Rogue Warriors,
so
TT,
it's Rogue Warriors, eStar, OMG, and TT.
Okay. The only one that's spared is essentially LGD. They're not considered one of the bottom 4.
Yeah, that's because they're not in the bottom 4.
Oh, true. That's a good point. Sorry about that.
Mathematically speaking, they are not considered bottom 4. Let's remove the silliness for a second. Let's just take a look at these compositions. So we talked about potential dive coming out from eStar when we get later on into the game. On the side of Suning, then, it feels like a little bit wombo combo-y with a Gnar and a Galio in there, as Bin and ZS are going to be trading back and forth. But where does, like, Akali and Kaisa fit into that kind of mess of a team fight?
So, once again, they're looking at a backline dive team composition. You can go in with Galio, Kaisa, and Akali. So, whenever you want to go in and dive, you want 3 people to do it. That's kind of the magic number in most compositions. So, Suning, I think they have actually pivoted into a very comfortable position. Both the Zoe and the Jayce are champions that do not enjoy being sat on. So, I think they have found themselves a pretty good space in just going in onto the squishy backlines, while eStars have transitioned themselves away from their initial three-man draft. I thought this was going to be a sort of team fight composition, but this time around, all of their eggs are on the top side basket. They have a double prio lanes in the Zoe and the Jayce lane, and they want to play through these lanes, get priority, get the poke game going, and end the game before they ever have to think about just a full-on 5-man where Suning are going to run amok inside of their backline.
Okay, well, we've got both teams that want to win fast then. eStar because of their composition, and Suning because the speed run is on the line. And I don't even think SofM or Suning in general are aware of the situation. But I'm hoping that some greater good brings it to their attention and pulls them into a fast game. We'll have to see how that one goes on. But I am excited to see what Suning have for us, because in game number 1, they actually played very, very fast. Like, much faster than I was expecting from Suning coming into this series. So we could have a similar performance here in game number 2, where they do play an accelerated game plan, even though it might not be the optimal way to play the composition.
Yeah, Suning just have such a better understanding of how to take team fights. And I think the critical play here is eStar's Hacker actually going into the mid lane. If they can get Irma moving towards top, it's actually going to be very easy for them to find kills. Bin is pushing up already, and this mid lane is all Irma all the time. Like, he's getting a massive advantage here, and they're going to try and target SofM as I can't believe SofM is still staying around as Hacker charges in.
I can't believe he got away with that. He literally knew that Hacker was there. Irma had prio mid, and he just runs at the crab. He's like, I'm pretty sure I could just burst this. Gets us a double crab. I just love watching SofM, man. How can you not love watching this guy?
That was kind of silly, honestly. Angel's pretty low, but SofM, he had the confidence that he could dodge out on the Sleepy Trouble Bubble, so he goes for it anyway, and he gets out completely fine. That's actually a double scuttle start coming in from Suning. Very surprising that that actually was the case, given the fact that eStar's laners are a lot stronger at this point.
Yeah, it's... Man, SofM is a wild ride, that is for sure. But I'm okay with the crazy shenanigans. I'm okay with this. And Udyr now building himself a lead for SofM as ShiauC drops a cheeky little ward onto the Gromp. So at least Hacker will have he'll have presence on where SofM is going to be. And I want to reiterate a stat that you brought up in game number 1, Clement, and that's that Hacker in the LPL, I think it was 40% of the games that he plays in gets participation on First Blood. So we do have to keep our eyes on Hacker because he very much likes to get in these lanes early on. We'll see if he can find an advantage in a similar way to what he did in Game 1.
And the most important lane to go for that is really the top lane. You can feel that Suning are very much aware of that one, and they've warded up the top lane completely as eStars go in.
Yeah, combo onto Huanfeng. Flashes out to safety, though. He'll be all right on this one, and damage traded back. So it's just going to be summoners for summoners. 3 on either side here. It's just a flash apiece now. So suddenly this bot lane got real volatile.
Yeah, that was absolutely huge from eStars, and now they're looking at changing the Hecarim in onto this lane. They have the full vision control for this one as well, so they will know when Udyr actually leaves. Probably just waiting for that to happen, or for SofM to overextend. I will point out this is kind of an interesting path from Hacker. He actually did not go back. He's just trying to hit 6 as fast as possible on his first clear and try to close out on this bot lane. But I think Suning are pretty well protected here. As a Tristana, you can't really hold the lane whatsoever, so Suning played it smart, and they just wait for the lane to come back.
SofM just sprinting around the map like a madman. Top scuttle's coming up, so you can expect SofM will run through this 1v1 in the mid lane. He got exhausted, and he just continues on his merry way into top river. Hacker hits him with a Q. He's like, he's not even noticed that there's a horse there. Looking to try and contest that crab, but you can see ZS moving down. Irma's here as well. This time Hacker has backup and will finally get himself that scuttle crab.
I will say this might look silly, but it's actually quite impactful. What he's doing right here is making sure that Angel, even without a cheater recall, is going to be able to hold himself well in lane against Zoe that puts on a lot of pressure early. And Angel's been able to actually get a CS lead. He has wave control because his jungler is just showing up so many times into that lane. And he's also keeping his top lane alive. I think that's super important in this matchup. Jayce, if you don't have a good early game against the Gnar, we've kind of seen what happened. You just aren't that impactful as a champion later on. And by making sure that mid lane is shoved up, he's also protecting Bin in the top side at the same time. So SofM, you keep on doing what you're doing. It's actually having a great impact.
Yeah, I mean, SofM always seems to find a way to have an impact on the game, whether it's good or bad. This game is definitely good. And I think as well, using the Udyr well against the Hecarim is important because Hecarim has slid up as maybe the most prioritized jungler in the LPL. I feel like he's kind of overtaken Udyr, so been taking a pretty nasty trade there from ZS. Like, look, it's Jayce versus Gnar. You do expect Jayce to have pretty significant advantage in this matchup, but ZS doing a good job to make sure he's punishing Bin.
Yeah, Bin actually dodging out on some of the skill shot damage right there, so not actually falling too low in that one. He's going to be relatively safe. Meanwhile, SofM already has a level lead over Hacker. This is just hilarious to watch him as he zips around the map. And right now, if Hacker gets forced into a stun, he pretty much has to blow the onslaught of shadows pretty quickly against Angel. I think the situation has changed. The 2v2 has gone from eStars having priority and advantage over to definitely Angel and SofM now having the first say in how these 2v2 fights happen.
Yeah, you see Irma trying to roam down. They're going to be able to stop the Drake at very least. And Irma has to just return to that mid lane. And remember, with an Akali in the game, Suning will have to play it a little slow. Akali does need a few levels before she really comes into her own. But I have to ask you, Clement, because I'm certainly no Akali expert myself. At what point should we expect Angel to start really impacting the game and start firing on all cylinders here?
So we have seen Akali's go mainly for the Night Harvester earlier on. There was some original Rift Maker builds. Not Rift Maker, what's that item called?
It's called Rift Maker.
It is called Rift Maker. Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah,
there was some Rift
right.
Maker builds into the solo lanes, but mainly has been Night Harvester in the LPL. And that's kind of the big mythic spike that you're looking for. Just the Night Harvester plus the Sork shoes to kind of go in onto targets. But you know, it's not really the same build as we have seen from the Hextech Gunblade. That was much more of a sideline split pushing build, while I think the Night Harvester does focus on just dive a lot earlier. So you're looking at better teamfight setup for her, and for her to kind of be a combo piece with the rest of the team. She's going to go in, Galio's going to follow up, they're just going to try and blow up Rat or Irma, or maybe even ZS, because Jayce is actually fairly easy to take down as well.
Well, it's Huanfeng being threatened with the blow up right here. Does survive, gets back under the tower, but they re-dive on the other side on this one. ShiauC low. There's the ult out from Hacker as well. Can Suning chase down the kills? Bin is here. ShiauC headbutts in, sacrifices himself to try and save Hacker, but the stun comes out and he's going down. ShiauC surviving for now because Suning have bigger fish to fry. I think ShiauC just tried to... I'm not sure what happened there, honestly, but he goes down anyway. It's going to be 2 for 1. Suning without the fight.
Yeah, eStar's actually had a really good map play in terms of their positioning, but Huanfeng was able to drag that out for so long. He even holds on to his flash there, using the Killer Instinct. I think he actually got out the Galio stuns there, and Irma gets tagged up.
Oh, Angel going in onto Irma here. Managed to get the E, and now he's able to follow up because On is around as well. Gets the knockup, finishes the kill. On wants a piece of the action.
Yeah, you can't portal jump in front of Angel like that. He's going to tag you out and finds a good kill there on that lane. Good idea, good map play from eStars, but they didn't have the execution. They didn't get the chain crowd control down to back out in time, and Suning are allowed to punish them with it. Now ShiauC coming in.
Oh no. Flash from Huanfeng. Nicely done there. Had the flash available and reads the play from ShiauC, but nice from eStar to punish that aggressive positioning from Huanfeng. He went way too deep, and now that should open up Rift Tower for Hacker.
Yeah, and we're going to see where Hacker actually drops this one out. Should be into the top side, as we have seen with the Bin teleport down into that play. ZS actually had a lot of free time onto that one. It will drop just to the Herald charge. But we will see if Angel has something to say about this.
Yeah, he's threatening the idea of it, but Smite exists.
He's going to try to
Angel's going to try and deny the actual Eye of the Herald. On's in trouble. Hacker will be able to get the Herald for himself. TP now as Angel stuck in the middle of everything. Twilight Shroud to keep himself safe. Angel does have to zip over the wall. Huge damage onto SofM, who has to run out the top side of the fight. Bin now behind everyone. Gnar about to be proc, but he just hops away. Suning disengaged the fight.
Really good find by eStars right there. I think Suning actually overextended for that one. No real use to go in there. And that's going to give eStars a lot of tempo play. We see Bin actually using his ultimate, not on the minions to clear, but just to get his Krugs. That's a little bit awkward. I do think eStars could actually just drop this and try to get the first tower, but they're going to go for the blue buff right now and still try to defend their mid, not rushing for the first gold.
Yeah, I think they're pretty confident that they'll be able to go for that later with Jayce, but let's take another look way back at the start of this dive, because this is fairly well executed by eStar to start with, but it felt like they really overcommitted to the play. Hacker having to use that ult defensively. Not great, and then obviously Suning are able to chase it down.
Yeah, really good positioning coming out from On, making sure that it was very difficult for Hacker to get out, and then Bin also uses a teleport to make sure they can clean up the kills there. It essentially was a sort of a 5v3, 5v4 into the bottom side, and the thing with that is they just didn't get the kill onto Huanfeng fast enough. He even had the flash if you wanted to draw that one out even longer, so a bit unfortunate right there, but they do found the comeback kills coming in. And Udyr now with Turbo Chem Tank, we are once again in that sort of situation where eStars, they need to be very careful about this push. It should just be a touch and go. You don't really want to all in on getting that second charge. I do want to see eStars just back out and try to get a better rotation on the next reset.
And I will say, Clement, we're getting into some dicey territory here for Suning, because sure, they may be even in gold right now. They may have SofM with 2 kills and a Turbo Chem tank already. But they're running out of time. They have to finish this game before 25 minutes and 36 seconds. It's already 14 minutes on the clock, and they're even in gold right now. They only have 12 minutes, in fact, 11 minutes and 30 seconds to finish this game out if they want to be the LPL bot-ball speedrun champions. That's a lot of pressure on the shoulders of Suning right now. We'll see if they can live up to that expectation.
I feel like if you pick an Akali, though, it counts as like a Heat 20 run, you know? Like, you get some credit for going on like harder champions and picking some punishment for yourself.
I will have to... I'm not an adjudicator, unfortunately. Never finished my referee's degree.
Okay.
So we'll have to defer to Kelsey on that one, whether or not playing different champions matters. I have a feeling she's going to say no on that one. Just to clarify as well, IG currently in the lead. So if Suning cannot finish this game, 25 minutes, 36 seconds, then it will be IG that will take this year's title.
Yeah, right now what eStar's main advantage is they're actually not that far ahead in the poke lanes, but Rat has that mythic power spike. He's going to be pushing down towers super hard, and they should just honestly just group around him. They have a strong siege potential. If ShiauC keeps his position, doesn't try to engage aggressively, and just make sure that, you know, Akali can't jump onto people, you're not unstoppable when you use your ultimate, then I think eStars has a very good group opportunity. They have longer range, they have more damage on their AD carry, and the poke is already coming in with the mythic items on the Eclipse and also with the Kraken Slayer like we're talking about. So really eStars right now, just make sure you get that Silent Vision, make sure ShiauC doesn't blow his abilities going forward, and you should be fine poking people out.
Ooh, SofM can go in. Bin has flash, turns into Mega Gnar. Can they find the opportunity? Just going for ShiauC here. Who is the Alistar? As you said last game, not really a pick when you're getting onto the Alistar. That was a weird pose from Bin as he falls asleep mid-air. That's an impressive skill. But it will be the Drake here, going the way of Suning, while eStar answer in the mid lane and grab themselves a tower. So nice answer here from eStar to at least get something on the map.
Yeah, they definitely want the early gold to further their snowball rather than contesting the Drakes. I feel like if you just make sure the enemy doesn't get the Dragon Soul, you're fine. You're not really playing for Drakes with this composition. It's much more about early snowballing. And I think for late game, Suning still have the better sort of like composition. It's easier to execute. You have that Gnar, which is going to act as a much stronger front line. And the catch potential, your flanking potential is just way too much for a poke comp to deal with. So I definitely read eStars being more on the timer here, and they're the ones that will more likely go for the immediate gold payoff rather than the Drake stacking.
Yeah, compositionally, I agree with you, Clement, but let's be honest, it's Suning that are on a timer this game. So
I'm sorry about that.
Let's not get it twisted.
I keep on forgetting what the real thing about this matchup. I keep on forgetting the stakes here. I'm sorry, Munchables.
Yeah, this is more than just playoff seeding. Playoffs is minuscule in comparison to the LPL playoffs bot 4 speedrun title that is so coveted here at the LPL. Let's get serious though. Let's talk about what's actually going on, right? So 2 Drakes in favor of Suning, and the gold, even though we're talking about the fact that eStar are finding themselves gold in the early game, in terms of actual total gold, they're only like 500 ahead, which is not a big enough lead for this composition, right? It feels like eStar do need to put their foot down a little bit more and try and accelerate. And maybe this Herald could be the answer.
Yeah, I do want to see how eStars actually play this. I feel like eStars in the couple of objective fights weren't really doing it correctly. What eStars want to do is that they want to hold ramps with their poke, and they can actually allow Suning to start the objectives first because they have the extra range. They can just kill people really easily. What they want to do if they want to start the objective first is make sure they have vision extending very far forward. They don't want to get caught into flanks. That's how their composition will lose this one. I like what they're doing. They're keeping the ramp secure. They're making sure that their vision extends all the way to the top lane, and making sure that, you know, no one can actually intercept them or try to flank them here. In the meantime, Suning are looking to counter with other plays. SofM is putting on a front here. The real prize is in the mid lane.
Yeah, they're looking for a tier 1 in the mid lane, but I don't think this is going to be quick enough from Suning. They don't really have that much tower damage. And ShiauC arrives to contest, so bit of a fumble from Suning, not able to find the actual objective they were looking for, not able to contest the Herald. I wasn't sure if they were going to try and make a dive happen for them. You can see on, like, around the red buff, it was kind of posturing towards the bottom lane, but either way, Suning don't find anything. It's another minor objective here for eStar. But once again, as always with these Heralds, the question is, what can they do with it? They've already taken all 3 tier 1s across the map, so now it's a matter of trying to crack the base open and take a tier 2.
True. I think this one is just going to be a fork. They probably want to take the next Drake and just make sure the pressure is sort of off on them. After the poke composition takes the first ring of towers, it's actually a little bit difficult to siege completely onto the mid lane. You think about the mid lane, you have to cover the Raptors, you have to cover the right side of the mid lane, so that's a little bit difficult. So I think what they're going to do is try to use this next Drake, fork them with the Herald, and try to get decisive picks onto Suning when they come and sort of check for that, and then snowball onto the second tower. That's kind of the game plan for eStars as we're going forward. In the meantime, for Suning, I have to disappoint you, but just because of how difficult Suning have the siege, they really have very little range on their champions. I think this is going to be a longer game. Like, Suning pretty much have to close off based off of some sort of split push into pick combination. So I don't see it ending before 25 minutes. I'm sorry, bro.
Yeah, like, I will say, there's 5 minutes and 30 seconds-ish left on the clock if Suning wants to win this speedrun championship. And they've taken 1 tower so far this game. It's not often that you see a team go from 1 tower taken to ending the game in 5 minutes when they don't have a herald or anything like that, right? So, yeah. It's not looking good right now for Suning. It might just be IG taking the title on that one. But let's focus on the actual game itself, because eStar found their opportunity with this herald, and they could look for another tower here. They've got the whole 5-man squad here. SofM is off towards the dragon right now. That's going to be a mid lane. Maybe it's eStar that is speedrunning the game. We've been baited. We've been wrong the whole time. The herald charges on in the mid lane. That's the inhib down, and now the fight. SofM caught, taunt from on as the rest of the team comes in. Been about to turn mega, though. This could be for the fight for Suning, but Rat just all-ins onto SofM, forces him away. On jumps straight onto Rat. Into the Raptor's pit he goes to try and survive. Angel assassinates him. It's pure chaos, but eStar are falling apart at the scene. Their apple crumbled before your eyes, and it's ZS flashing out to safety, but it's Suning taking the fight.
Yeah, I think eStars could have played that a little bit more patiently and dealt with the engagers one by one. They jump forward, their backline is completely tied up, and they're not able to properly focus the front line either. So I think they just pulled the trigger a little bit early. If they walked out all in formation towards the mid lane, they would have been a bit better in that position. Suning cast them out. It was a good start of eStars. I felt like Suning actually underestimated the push potential. It definitely seemed like SofM was looking for a pick on the bottom side, and they figured out a little bit too late that it was a full-on push for the mid lane inhibitor. But they go back and they get the better team fight collapse to finish that one off. Bin was absolutely massive there with the double, and we're going to watch that again. This is eStars trying to look for an out here. ShiauC really doesn't need to pop his abilities that early on. I feel like they can still, kind of walk out from this one if they just try to hold hands into the front. But, Rat goes in very deep. Angel finds an easy isolated target. He's so far away from his front line. He's far away from his support. Rat just dies before getting back into protected range. And then it's pure cleanup from that. So, eStars, they were in a bad position, but I definitely think they panicked there, and they could have held their formations a bit better.
And here's the problem with taking an inhib this early, is you're against a Kaisa. Kaisa's pretty great at dealing with super minions because of the plasma stacks she can put on, because of the fact that she gets to go for this Kraken Slayer early. All you've done by taking this inhib, I fear, is just fed gold into Huanfeng. We've got another fight on our hands, though, as ShiauC goes in Hacker. We'll try and sprint away. The bear is pretty quick, though, but not quite as quick as a horse. There's Irma just getting a bit more poke damage down. And Suning, they can just retreat once again. Remember, they have the Baron, so plenty of ability to not just push their advantage, but also they can stall really well against eStar.
Yeah, they have the side lane split push. That's going to be their biggest advantage. No one can really match Angel at this point, so he's going to be allowed to do whatever he wants in the side lanes. Meanwhile, eStar's job is to try and force in siege and get Angel to actually use that teleport to come back into lane a little bit faster. So we are going to see once again. I'm actually rooting for eStars here. I feel like they're in a strong point. I do want to see them put up a bit of a fight, but it's just about beating the collapse here. I want to see ShiauC actually hold on to his abilities rather than using them early to disengage people.
Oh, the fear across the team. In comes On. SofM's down, though. Good pick here to start the fight. On goes into the middle of everyone and just gets deleted. I'm not quite sure what went through his head there. But, well, that's how that one goes down. And now Rat jumps into everyone. Angel will finish those. What is happening, Clement? This is the daftest team fight I think I've ever seen. Now the paddle start over. That's a kill for Irma. Somehow, eStar coming out on top after all of this. Accelerated Shock Blast will be ready in a second. ZS just biding his time, looking for the opportunity. Huanfeng has that red buff, healing him up here. Might be able to get away with this one, but they're all chasing for the kill. In the meantime, Angel's had to retreat to the base because there are supers pushing right here. Shock Blast goes wide. Clement, what just happened?
No, actually, eStars could have been able to take another inhibitor. They were 5v3, and the enemy team has just lost their main engage. They don't have Galio or Udyr. Oh, that was so painful to watch from eStars. Oh.
Yeah, maybe not the greatest decision to try and chase those kills. Let's take another look, though, because that was pure chaos right here. So SofM goes in.
Yeah.
Him and ShiauC duke it out a little bit.
This is kind of interesting. Really good job by Hacker to get the blast cone and take the enemy back into their own team. So Hacker, definitely MVP for me on this game. They get a really nice choke, so their backline is completely protected, and they get the extra kill going into this one. But, you know, Rat just goes a little bit forward, and Angel just picks him off. Like, that was kind of tragic to see. They had the 2-kill advantage onto these supporting cast for Suning, so they could have just sat back and went for the towers. Instead, they try to finish everything off there. So, painstaking.
Rat saw glory in his eyes there. He saw glory in his eyes. He saw the opportunity. He wanted the resets, but he got classic Tristana brain. It's a medical condition that we've often seen, very similar to vein spotting. Except there are no points involved, it's just sadness. Tactical had it in LCS playoffs. Now we're seeing it in the LPL as well, coming out from Rat. The daft thing is, he knew Angel was there. Angel had thrown a shuriken over the wall already and missed. Like, it was completely clear that Angel was over that wall. Rat opted into that. So a little unfortunate for him. I don't want to harp too much on it though. Drake coming up in 15 seconds, and it feels like eStar are completely in control, despite the fact that they're actually down in gold right now.
Yeah, they still have the vision here, but I'm really looking at the backline. We have another completed item coming out from Angel, and just judging by the amount of damage he was able to do the last time around, it's going to be very hectic once he pops the Twilight Trap. Like, everyone's going to be running away. I don't feel like eStars, as sort of this artillery piece, can keep all of their guns pointing in the same direction once Angel finds the flank. So I actually don't want to see eStars over aggress onto this one before they find good poke. Their conditions for going in should be chunking someone out. If they don't find the chunk, I actually want them to switch positions with Suning, have Suning start the objectives first, and just remain safe. Have that distance advantage. Don't go all in just yet unless you find someone low.
Well, SofM is just committing to the Drake right here. As eStar trying to back away. Bin is in Mega Gnar. He's threatening the Flash Gnar. Doesn't actually have Flash available. It doesn't matter. Drake goes the way of Suning. They can just back away from this one. They've got a free kill onto Hacker in the meantime. Now SofM flies in at the speed of light. Surrender now or prepare to fight. eStar have to run underneath their tower, tails between their legs. Suning just take over.
I'm pretty sure Hacker actually had his ultimate there. I'm not exactly sure why Hacker went back in, but he did. And the rest of his team does get to escape from that one, so Suning pretty happy there. Once again, I felt like eStars could have played their position a little bit further up onto the ramp, make sure that there was no one behind them, and just stay safe that way. Kind of weird move by Hacker, and now Suning are closing the deal.
Yeah, big fight here. On should go down to the Ignite, but Huanfeng should be able to easily finish these kills off. Rat surviving for now, though. ShiauC will fall. No killer instinct available. Irma jumps back over the wall and gets him out to safety. There's another couple of picks for Suning. It feels like these fights are getting more and more one-sided as we go, Clement.
Yeah, it's a 3-0 in that fight totaled. eStars know they can't really contest without finding poke, so once they see Akali just rounding the corner, they completely back out. And that's the issue with the poke compositions. You don't really have a front line to play around. It becomes really difficult in the later phases of the game to dissuade these divers coming from all different directions. We saw the combo that we were talking about, Angel going in plus the heroic entrance coming in from Galio. So we're going to see that once again. eStars, once again, a little bit disappointed here, but Irma doesn't find any poke. Hacker actually tries to go in with a devastating charge on that one, gets dragged back into the composition and just dies, and that just means an easy Baron play for Suning, as we're seeing in the screen.
Yeah, so Baron comes up, Suning straight onto the board with this one. That will just be smited by SofM, and now they get a fight on top of it. They already got the Baron, they get themselves a team fight on, slams down, actually got interrupted there. To the skies comes out, but not going to be enough damage, and well, this is going to be over, isn't it? I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen, because there's nothing eStar can do in these skirmishes. It's a clean ace for Suning.
It was kind of cool as we saw Sleepy Trouble bubble onto Galio. They actually stopped the ultimate, but it doesn't matter in the end. They don't really need on whatsoever. They're still going to find the ace. And just judging by the timers, they're not going to be able to close off this game completely, but it will be pretty damn close as this gold lead is unsurmountable.
Yeah, this is one of those things where, sure, the game doesn't end right now, but the game is still definitely over. Like, I've lost all faith in the eStar comeback at this point. It's SofM on the split push jungle. You can see Angel in the bottom lane as well, crashing into the tier 2. This will be mid lane inhib taken by Huanfeng. I think that's all they'll get for now. SofM just crashes this monster wave in the top side. Hacker try to clear it. SofM sees the enemy jungler. It just gets red in his eyes as they just sprint up the top lane. That was like the 100-meter sprint. I felt like I was watching the Olympics, not League of Legends.
SofM is laughing on the camera himself. He says turtle stance too strong, and he runs away from it without a scratch on it. We're going to take another look at this play. eStar's unfortunately just a little bit late, and really good play from Bin once again. Gets the two-man knockup, forcing the jump early from Rat. And we saw On just actually canceled out by the CP Trouble Bubble in the backline, but it doesn't matter. Angel with Night Harvester is too fast. He has that stopwatch. He isn't afraid of going in whatsoever, and eStars just crumble with their composition. Not far up ahead in the early game, and they didn't get their snowball. Like, they didn't play their snowball as well as they could. Felt like both times they were very deep into Suning territory. They actually gave the teamfight wins over to Suning. So, you know, this was a one where eStars definitely could have just came out with the early game lead and closed it in, but Suning were just far more experienced, far more measured in those teamfight phases.
ZS in trouble here. SofM can't quite chase that kill down, so ZS will walk away with his life. This will be the tier 2 in the bottom side taken eventually when the minion wave arrives. Suning can just proxy the next wave and start pressuring another inhib. And I want to reset the stakes here. I want to remind everyone what's on the line for Suning. They have to win this series if they want to contest that 7th seed, importantly. RA and Suning, the two teams that can fight for that 7th seed. And it'll be RA playing on the final day of the split in 2 days' time to see who gets that seeding. But this 2-0, incredibly important for Suning. And it feels good to see them playing so beautifully in these fights. Feels like they're very coordinated right now, which is a really great look before playoffs. Hacker looking for the engage as well. ShiauC already having used that. Oh, Rat! Down to 1 HP, just zips out the back of the fight. SofM can't close the gap, but Angel can. Flies through everybody like a ninja. And now they can finish these fights off. Hacker trying to escape. Does dodge the shuriken, but Huanfeng can't quite get the W out. It's Ermin out underneath the tower. Has a stopwatch, baits everyone in, but Huanfeng survives. Still has a GA on top of all of this. Finally, Irma falls, and it's just Hacker remaining on the map. Suning take everything, and they'll finish the game.
Yeah, Suning, they don't get the speedrun award in the LPL, but they get the clean 2-0. Game difference is really important here. I don't think anyone in the lower side of the brackets looking to face up against someone like Invictus Gaming when you have LNG already locked into the 10th seed. That's what really Suning are playing against for their trip, not to face up against the Shy and Rookie in their first rotation of playoffs, and so far they have succeeded. However, their fates are yet to be decided. We still have teams that can potentially are able to take out EDG this split, so it's always a bit of a weird one as these teams are jockeying for position. You know, you could potentially say that like IG are in terms of their record, they're easier opponent in the first round, but no one wants to take a risk on that.
Look, IG have the mojo factor. That's the problem. You can't ever count IG out because they've got too much mojo. It's this uncontrollable resource. It's unbottleable, unelixirable, but it's there. It exists. And IG, they've got Ozo? They've got mojo oozing out of every single orifice. So it's not a team that you want to play in the first round of playoffs. That is for sure. And honestly, I hope that Suning makes 7th seed, just because I think RA versus IG would be such a hype series to start playoffs with. Like, that matchup stylistically, the team fights, the skirmishes would be so chaotic.
It's kind of weird to think about IG as the underdogs against Rare Atom, but it's definitely true this bit. Rare Atom look a lot more cohesive, they look more disciplined, and Fofo, for me, has been the best mid laner of this split in the LPL. So that's definitely one I want to watch, and I do want to see Suning go a little bit further into the playoffs if it's possible. We're going to be taking a look at their picks so far. Yeah, it's been pretty standard for Suning's draft this time around. I think they are experiencing more with trying to accelerate the game pace. This is the clear signal that they're showing at the very end of their regular season run. For their previous matches, they've always taken Jinx if it was available. If it wasn't available, then they would go for other picks, but it was always hyper carry and trying to play front to back. So this time around, Suning are saying, hey, we got some speed run chops as well. We're not always a pushover, but it's important to remember for Suning, their most defining factor in losses is they just get blown up in the early game. They have lost to basically every one of the they have lost to 7 of the top 8 teams in the playoffs currently. So they don't have a great record against teams that are ahead of them, and those teams really put a number on them through the early game. So I think it's good for Suning to get some practice here.
Yeah, the hilarious thing about that statistic, they've lost to 7 of the top 8 teams. They are one of the top 8 teams. So that's 100% because they don't get to play themselves. I'm not sure that's exactly what you think.
Yeah. I'm sorry, 6. So the only one they did win was Top Esports.
Okay.
Yeah, so they lost to 6 of the teams that were ahead of them.
Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Still hilarious. Suning feeling good, though, off the back of this win. And I have to say, I do think that Suning have sort of cleaned up their game a little bit towards the end of the split. I think this is one of the teams that have progressed a lot across the course of spring split. So perhaps can change their fortunes as they move towards playoffs. On the side of eStar, though, this was their final game of the split. They're going to have a bit of a vacation for themselves before summer split now. So let's do a bit of a recap on kind of where this team is at and what we can be looking towards for summer. Because I do think there were some promising signs. Like, I think ShiauC had some pretty good games this split. I think Hacker as well with this aggressive early style. I think there's a lot to work with there. It just felt like in the mid-game, a lot of really awkward decision-making. And I feel like if they can tighten that up a little bit, they might be able to get some more wins on the board.
I definitely think so. If you think about the main impetus behind eStar's rise to prominence, it really was ShiauC and his focus just on Drakes. Like, that was kind of their go-to breadwinner. Nobody thought they had the roster strength to actually stay in the position that they were at, but they had a very clear defined style to go for, and it was a style that was it stacked on top of itself. It was always bot lane all the time. It was always focusing on the wink lane, and I think this is the problem with eStars. They have a defined style, but the transition is so difficult to make. They focus on top lane first. They're a Herald playing team, and then they have to go to bot lane for their damage dealing. So I think there's two ways they could try to change this. Number one is just make sure that ZS can actually play sort of a weak side top laner. Make sure that he's sufficient on things like Ornn, like Malphite, like Sion, where you don't have to babysit him, and play a front to back team fighting team. That's one route. Or the other route is you just tell Rat that, hey, I'm sorry, bro, but we're playing solely for the top side. You're gonna have to back away from that tower a little bit sooner rather than die underneath it, and we are gonna go ham and become sort of a top focused team. And I think that route is a little bit more difficult because in my eyes it would also mean that you probably need to tool Irma to more of an early game focused mid laner. So for me, their pathway is probably to find just a safe top laner. Those are a lot easier to find than, fighting top laners these days. So just get one of them there, slap them down, and try to do what you did back in 2019 when you first came to the lead. Let ShiauC lead, play around the Drakes, try to stack up your hyper carry who is Rat, and play control mage in the mid lane for Irma, play front to back, see where it goes.
All right, well, there's your diagnosis from Dr. Clement on how to solve the eStar problem. Just pick a weak side, basically, and commit to it.
Yeah.
Have someone that is willing to lose the lane.
Taking turns on weak sides is so difficult. It's really hard to play that way.
Yeah. So we'll see if eStar can fix that up for summer. All in all, not a great split for them. 2-14 at the end of the day. But we live and learn, and hopefully in summer they can change things up a little bit and have a better result. On the other side, though, Suning, that was also their final game. We've talked a lot about Suning across the course of the day, as they've kind of been the favorite team in this series, and I feel like there's more to talk about with Suning. But I think the conclusion here is that this has been a team that has excelled in the late game, right? This is a team that's been quite quiet in the early game for most of the split, but as we've got towards the end of the split, and especially in this series, it feels like they're starting to accelerate that game plan a little bit. Maybe a good sign moving towards playoffs.
I think Suning overall this split, you have to say that they've taken a huge step backwards. game plan in previous splits was we play jungle support synergy. We make a ton of picks with things like Bard and Lee Sin. It's absolutely crazy to watch how active they were early game, and then we settle into a 1-3-1 where Bin is off split pushing. This time around, they still have the same late game goals. They just don't have any of the early game action, which is really troubling for them, and I think that's their biggest test into playoffs. Can they keep up pace with guys like Kaisa? Can they still keep up their momentum when Jayce is actually coming out with a ton of kills in the early game as well? So that's going to be the big question to see. I feel like they're going to have a really hard time against bottom lane focused snowballing teams, especially like Viper and Mako going into it. But, you know, I think if they get it to the late game, they are still one of my most comfortable teams to watch. I would take their late game over guys like Top Esports, over Invictus Gaming, and even guys like FPX.
All right, well, tall words there from Clement. But let's take a look at our MVP as we round out the series. It's going to be Angel in the mid lane, and I think understandably so. The Akali looked super clean today. I'm excited to see him bringing it out right before playoffs as well. We saw it on the world stage, and it looked amazing. We get to see that once again. And in some of those team fights, it felt like there was the one fight where it looked like Rat was going to get away, and then he flies halfway across the team fight to be able to finish the kill. I just love how aggressive he is on the Akali.
Yeah, this is Angel's kind of go-to champion in the past in 2019. And I do want to say, I think he's taking it out just because playoffs is highly likely to go up a patch. We might be seeing 11.6. Not confirmed just yet, but on 11.6, there is a little bit more assassination potential. Laning is weaker, the more AP focused, but the raw damage numbers are slightly higher there. So I think Angel is just trying to put this in the back of everyone's mind and say, hey, you know, I took this out of Worlds. You gotta respect it. If the situation does arise and if you want to go for a poke composition, Suning can still fight you in the early game. We can still punish you.
Yeah, and I feel like that was I think punish is the key word for this series from Suning, where it felt like there was a few times where eStar overstepped, but there wasn't a single time where eStar overstepped and Suning didn't punish them for it. Like every single time it felt like Suning were in a position to really brute force and manage to make picks happen. But I have music in my ears right now because I've just heard that we have an interview ready, and it's with SofM.